Hey guys, why the world we were here. Today I want to tell you the story of Light Yagami and Light Turner. Two characters who probably could not be more different while still technically being the same character. Let's start with Light Yagami, or Old Light. Old Light is the coolest cat around. His intelligence is off the chart. He makes perfect grades and outwits pretty much everyone in his native hemisphere. He lives an idyllic family life with an adoring sister, a doting mother, and a strict yet proud father who, as police chief, brings their family a little bit of esteem. So logically, if this guy is so smart, he must be bullied and a social pariah, but no. Turns out Light's intelligence is only matched by his social skills. His ability to charm and impress have netted him a large amount of friends and popularity and respect, and couple that with his devilish good looks and athletic ability, he can pretty much just have the pick of whatever girls he wants. Over the course of his story, two beautiful and powerful women end up fighting over his affections. But when this demigod of a man receives a device that allows him to kill anyone by just writing his name on a sheet of paper, his true nature is revealed. He decides to play God, using the Death Note to shape his new world by deciding who lives and who dies. And why shouldn't he be God? The story that Old Light is set in is constantly proving how smarter and talented and more committed he is than everyone around him. The only thing standing in his way is a person whose intelligence and willingness to use people as pawns is as high as his. These two titans conduct a near decade-long chess game using their people around them as pawns and barely escaping death by the skin of their teeth, the advantage constantly flip-flopping back and forth until Light finally loses. Right before his death, the story shifts, portraying him as a pathetic psychopath that, well, he always was. This is framed as some sort of grand reveal, but to anyone over the age of 15, hopefully, Light's true nature has been evident from the beginning. The story introduces Old Light, shows what he does, and then he does that thing until he can't do it anymore. He doesn't change, he doesn't grow, he just does what he does. And for the most of the story, that's fine, because what Old Light does is incredibly entertaining. He's a brilliant character to watch just be insane and off the wall and going so extreme. But when you're done with his story, it's like, well, that's over. Now let's talk about New Light, who, again, probably couldn't be more different than Old Light while still being the same character. Light Turner is a little smarter than most of his classmates, but that doesn't really stop him from being bullied and estranged by most of them. And frankly, why wouldn't he be? He's not particularly charismatic or charming or likable. In fact, he's kind of annoying. Light lives in a broken home, with the death of his mother leaving him and his father's relationship to be defined by shouting matches and battles of wills. And to make it even more cliche, this guy has a good heart and can't bear to see someone be picked on by a bully who's stronger than them. So he stands up for the weak. So New Light is a very flawed character who's kind of annoying, but we see more of his character when a death god decides to give him a device that allows him to kill anybody by just writing their name down. What does he use this power for? Well, petty revenge, using it to kill the guy who ran over his mother. Then he gets drunk on power and decides to use a death note to cull criminals, and this is encouraged by his new and pretty unstable girlfriend. He revels in the attention and worship he's getting online from the public, finally in power and appreciated for the first time in his life. For the first time, this bullied and downtrodden man has control. So he extends and goes farther and farther until, in typical Western storytelling fashion, he gets way over his head. He quickly learns that the death god who chose him and the girlfriend who encourages him are neither under his control or necessarily acting in his best interest. On top of this, he is being pursued by a relentless detective named L, who possesses both superior intellect and access to government support. Eventually, it all comes crashing down. He's trapped on all sides, but in a stroke of luck, he's able to kill L's handler, Watari. But all this does is make the relentless detective pursuing him unstable and unhinged, plus his girlfriend is about to throw a coup, and that death god is ready to replace him. He's also racked by the guilt that, at this point, his actions have led to the deaths of innocent people. And in his dark hour, hunted, betrayed, and doubting everything he's ever known, Light is somehow able to come up with this crazy plan, using everything at his disposal to outplay Ryuk, outfox L, and escape Mia. Finally living up to the in-control badass that is Light. But after this, he chooses not to gloat like old Light would have done, but simply share an intimate moment with his father. So these are technically the same character, which is why, in talking about their respective works, critics tend to concentrate on the differences between the two. Which is fine, but as I've just laid out, these are two very different characters who function completely different in the story and were written with totally different intentions. Old Light is a perfect escapist fantasy for an edgy teenager without a shred of self-awareness. He's also grandiose, psychopathic, and insane enough to be incredibly entertaining to adults like me who do have a bit of self-awareness. New Light is, by comparison, drab, thoughtless, and annoying, but this makes him way more relatable compared to Yagami, who is portrayed as pretty much a god. Turner is motivated by extremely relatable forces, like revenge and the desire to feel wanted for the first time in his life. And unlike Old Light, he makes very human connections with the people around him instead of immediately assessing how to use them to further his own goals, even sacrificing his loving father without a second thought. Now, I do find Old Light much more entertaining than his successor, with his over-the-top antics convincing me to pick up the show. But I do find New Light much more interesting, because remember, like I said before, Old Light never changes. He never grows. He never has to morally reflect on his actions or the actions of those around him. He never, at any point, doubts that he's doing the right thing. After 13 hours of screen time, we leave Light Yagami the same way we found him. And thus, all he is a gimmick. A moralist megalomaniac who's really, really fun to watch. But if another megalomaniac comes along who's better written and more compelling to watch, like, say, Frank Underwood or Cersei Lannister, for audiences, Old Light will be replaced. And that may be why I don't see myself rewatching the Death Note anime. Light Turner is on the other hand forced by his story to grow, and in doing so is turned from being annoying and cliche to leaving me impressed and satisfied. He's a fully realized character with a, arc that, in good writing, characters are supposed to have. So yeah, that's how I see these two characters and why I, at least hypothetically, prefer one to the other. And I want you guys to do that. I want all of y'all to look at these guys and ask yourself, which one do I like better? I'm not telling you my way is right. I just think that answer should inform you about yourself. And I just have one tiny more request. Maybe instead of saying that one character is a shadow of his former self or a pale imitation of the other, maybe think about why that character is written the way they're written and what goals they're trying to accomplish in the story. Please, critics out there on YouTube, please do your jobs. So obviously I have some pretty strong opinions about this. I'm trying to keep out of this video to avoid it turning into just a massive rant. And just to be clear before people misunderstand my point, I really enjoy the Death Note anime. I give it an 8.5, which is a higher score than I give the movie. I just think that some people have been a little immature. So I'm guessing a bunch of you think that, the next video on my channel is going to be this massive thing where I tear into both Death Note adaptations and directly compare them. And you would be wrong, because I certainly could do that, but I am not just your run-of-the-mill analyst. Despite my 51 subscribers, I am still Wyatt the Word Weaver. And I got ambitions. So later this month, I'm going to be taking a bat to the entire idea of adaptations. Talking about how they go wrong, talking about how they can be done right, and why you adapt at all, and what you should do when you do it. Not to overhype, but I think it's going to be pretty darn cool. Subscribe to this channel and follow me on Twitter if you don't want to miss it. And if you want to be a real hero, spread it around so it can reach the rest of the Weavers out there. Alright, enough spiel. I'll see you then. Y'all be good.